Adi Yogi, the first yogi, arrived in the upper region of the Himalayas many thousands of years ago. He transmitted the technologies of yoga for evolving human consciousness. While many yogis have spread this knowledge around the world, Agastya Muni has played an important role in bringing this spiritual culture to India. Even today, remnants of Agastya Muni's work are present in the day-to-day activities of the people in this country. To revive these technologies that are deeply embedded in our traditions, to bring physical and mental well-being and spiritual vibrance into the lives of every human being, Sadhguru offers inner engineering as a method to enhance one's life. Sadhguru, a Grahastha yogi, carries the same intensity, insight, wisdom, and passion as the ancient sages to bring well-being to every individual. A mystic, yogi, visionary humanitarian, and poet, Sadhguru is a spiritual master with a difference. Traversing seamlessly from the ancient to the ultra-modern, he bridges the gap between the known and the unknown, enabling all those who encounter him to explore and experience the deepest dimensions of life. Making a clear break from mere customs and rituals, Sadhguru presents the inner dimension in a scientific manner as it is relevant to our times.
This was a little 25 years ago. There's a little hill just outside the city. This is known as a Chamundi Hill. This is a hill that I've known very well right from my childhood. I've trekked here, I've camped here, I've spent days and nights on this hill. So I had a little break, so I just drove up Chamundi Hill. That afternoon I just went and sat there. Till that moment in my life, this was me, that was somebody else. I just sat there, my eyes were still open. Suddenly I did not know which is this and which is that. What is this was all over the place. What I considered as myself was simply everywhere. The very rock on which I was sitting, the air that I breathed, the atmosphere around me, everything was this. I thought this lasted for 5–10 minutes, but when I came back to my normal senses, my eyes were open, I am fully conscious. I sat there around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It was 7:30, 4.5 hours had passed by. For the first time in my adult life, tears. Tears and me impossible. I remember very clearly, when I was 8 years of age, something happened and I cried. I felt so ashamed that I decided never again in my life one teardrop will ever come out of my eyes. And I allowed that to happen till I was 25. And today I'm sitting here, tears are just flowing to your point, my shirt is wet. I've always been. I said, I never had problem with that, so being peaceful and happy has not been an issue. But here I'm bursting with a completely different level of ecstasy, soaked in it. Here I was, just sitting, even if I simply sit there, an explosion of ecstasy within me. At least one drop of this possibility should be available to every human being. With this endeavor, this powerful process of Isha Kriya is being offered to all.
I was just thanking him and I said, Sadhguru, thank you is a very small word. I just want to say, it's been absolutely fantastic for me. And he said, don't thank me, thank yourself, because everything was already within you.
With Sadhguru, I was completely blown away by the clarity of thought, by the simplicity of words. And I think that to me was one of the most important turning factors.
From the outside, nothing changed. From the inside, everything changed.
How do I describe Sadhguru, who once and still is my friend? That one being that is there beyond the friend, the being that is there beyond his eyes, beyond his clothes, beyond his ashram, beyond even all the love that people give him. When I walk with him and I hold him, I feel he's a child. I sense a child in him, and all my being says to me, you must protect this vulnerability. And then when he leaves, I feel that there is this vulnerability that is so acute and so intense, that is so powerful, that it needs no protection. By bearing himself, by giving himself to everybody and everything in every act of creation around him, and merges with that which is eternal. And in that merging, there is no need for protection, except in my mind. How do I protect him? So the experience of being with Sadhguru can only be described in one very inadequate, misunderstood word called love. Love not in the form that we all look at it, but love as in complete surrender. Love as in complete compassion. Love as in compassion not for every other being, not for any time, but for every act of creation. When you get into your world, people ask you, is he your guru? And I say, no, that's just a word. Is he your friend? Of course he is, but that's just a word. Is that an ashram? Yes, it is, but that's just a word. Is Sadhguru a man that is bringing peace to the world? Yes, he is, but that's just a statement. Beyond statements, beyond love, beyond words, beyond even yearning, there lies somewhere there an access point to something that's eternal.
Over 15,000 years ago, a man of phenomenal proportions and immense capabilities arrived in the upper regions of Himalayas. And the immensity of who he was could not be ignored by anybody, so he drew people. And out of this, he started sharing his knowing with people around him. Fundamentally, his first sharing happened with his 7 disciples, who are now celebrated in this country as Saptarishis, or the 7 sages. These 7 sages took this knowledge, which is essentially the mechanics of life. When I say the mechanics of life, maybe right now you have emotions and you're fundamentally looking at yourself as this is me, with a certain emotion and attachment to who you are. But I'm not wishing this upon you. Suppose you're sick and you went to the hospital
Now, your doctor treats you like a machine. He opens up this, he opens up that, he looks in here, fixes this, fixes that. As far as he's concerned, you're just a mechanism. And you are a mechanism, a fabulous mechanism, of course. But you're still a mechanism. How well you kept it depends from person to person, but it's a fabulous mechanism. Of all the machines we know, of all the sophisticated instruments that we ourselves have created as human beings, definitely this one, the human mechanism, is the most sophisticated instrument on the planet. There's no question about this, isn't it? Finest mechanical works, finest electricals, finest electronics, and finest something else that we don't know about yet. And it creates itself. And it fortunately also has an expiry date. It doesn't stay forever. So this mechanism, what is the ultimate potential we can take this to? The knowledge of this, the technology of this, he propagated to these 7 sages or the Sapta Rishis. The other 6 went to various parts of the world, literally every continent on the planet. If you carefully look at every culture on the planet, you will see remnants of this knowledge in various forms and distortions across the planet. So Agastya Muni, who Shiva himself said is the best of my disciple, came down south and travelled extensively to every human habitation. Lore says he lived for 4,000 years, going from one human habitation to another, passing on this technology of inner well-being. If you calculate the travels that he has done, you travel anywhere, particularly south of Deccan, you travel anywhere to any village, any part of these 4-5 states that are there, people will say, Agastya Muni meditated here, Agastya Muni planted this tree, in this cave he was sitting. You hear these stories all over the place. He obviously lived an extraordinary length of time. We do not know how much, whether it is 400 or 4,000. Because we are Indians, we are a little liberal with zeros, after all we invented it. He ensured that these technologies for well-being touched every human habitation that existed in those times. The remnants of which still you can see, almost in every family, all of you are doing some form of yoga without knowing you're doing yoga. The way you sit, the way you stand, the way you eat, the way you sleep, these are all the yogic systems that were taught and made, woven into the tapestry of culture, so that it is no more a teaching, it is just a way of living. So this dimension of inner well-being was also taught like this, not as a separate teaching, not as some kind of spiritual movement, simply as life. This dimension he brought to such a level. The work that he did so many thousands of years ago still lives in the culture. You go to the remotest village in Tamil Nadu, absolutely illiterate peasant, you talk to him. If I go, Swami, enakku mukti kadikunu Swami, even he knows about mukti, you know. This is Agastya Muni's work. So people ask me, what has it done to India? So, there were a group of Americans who were at the ashram and they were asking me, I said, you look at this, where the ashram is just outside Coimbatore, the local police station, which is about 12 kilometers from the ashram, has about 10 to 11 policemen, out of which 3 will be always on leave, okay? About 6 are on day duty. Night duty, there are 2 or 3. 1 will stay awake, other 2 will sleep. This is how it is run. If you say a murder has happened, they'll ask, should I really come? Because he has to come on his bicycle 12 kilometers. This is the kind of law we have, okay? Still there is no great amount of crime happening. Nobody is killing each other. So I asked them, okay, you come from New York City, if you call the police in 2.5 to 4 minutes, police are there screaming, sirens and guns and everything. Suppose you remove the police from New York City for 3 days, what will happen? Oh, they said there will be havoc. See, that's not happening here. This is spiritual process. Spiritual process does not mean everybody is looking up and doing Ram Ram. Looking up and looking down is not the point. Because looking up, you don't even know what is up, do you? Do you know what is really up? See, you're sitting on a round planet. You're in a tropical country, not even on the North Pole. And the damn planet is spinning. Whenever you say Upar Wala, you're looking in the wrong direction. Yes? In this cosmos, does anybody know which is up and which is down? Does anybody know? So you don't know what is up and down. You do not know what's forward, backward. There's only one thing you can know. What is outward, what is inward. This you're sure of, isn't it? Yes? This one thing alone you can be sure of. Inward moment, outward moment. Nothing else you're sure of, rest is all just nonsensical talk. So, spiritual process is not about looking up or looking down, it is about looking inward.
A significant step towards this was the Ananda Alai, or wave of bliss, a first of its kind, a widespread spiritual revolution which swept across Tamil Nadu in the form of a series of Mahasatsangs, touching millions of people throughout the state. These Mahasatsangs created an opportunity for people to experience a state of joy, fulfillment and well-being.
Every human experience has a chemical basis to it. If you're healthy, it's one kind of chemistry. If you become ill, it's another kind of chemistry. If you're happy, it's one kind of chemistry. If you become miserable, another kind of chemistry. Peace is one kind of chemistry, turmoil is another kind of chemistry. Agony is one kind of chemistry, ecstasy is another kind of chemistry. Every human experience has a chemical basis to it. This chemistry is ruled by various aspects, but the most fundamental aspect which determines the nature of the chemistry within you, whether you have a chemistry of blissfulness or you have a chemistry of turmoil, essentially is determined by how the 5 elements function within the system. The 5 elements of earth, water, air, fire and space, these 5 elements are the basis of this body, or the basis of this planet, or the basis of the whole creation. These are the 5 ingredients with which creation is made. The most fundamental process of yoga is referred to as Bhuta Shuddhi. Bhuta Shuddhi means to cleanse the 5 elements. If you practice Bhuta Shuddhi, every aspect of yoga, every practice of yoga is just a small extraction from the fundamental process of Bhuta Shuddhi. If you cleanse the elements sufficiently, then you attain to a state which we refer to as Bhuta Siddhi. That means you have a certain mastery over your 5 elements. The 5 elements which are the basis of the construction of this body and this creation, once you have a little mastery over them, now your body, your mind and the nature around you, everything will be under one's command. This is the fundamental process of yoga, that one wants to attain to a state of Bhuta Siddhi so that the life process is no more an accidental process. Life process is not a compulsive reaction to the situations in which we exist, but life process is a conscious process. Once life is a conscious process, to be pleasant is natural, to be blissful is natural, to naturally move towards liberation is inevitable.
The inner engineering programs are a rare opportunity for multitudes of people to experience a powerful spiritual process that was traditionally offered to very few. These programs draw people from all walks of life and provide tools to live life effortlessly.
Essentially, you are seeking pleasantness within yourself. You want this life experience to be pleasant. You may call this pleasure, you may call this happiness, you may call this joy, you may call this any number of things. Why you want to go to heaven? Because the advertisements say it's a very pleasant place. Isn't it so? So you are only seeking pleasantness. You want pleasantness within you, you want pleasantness around you. So in trying to create pleasantness around us, we can only be successful partially, never 100%. Because now suppose we want to keep the situation pleasant, I need all your cooperation. Yes? One of you can stand up and make this nasty. Not in my experience, you can make the situation ugly, right? The very nature of outside situation is such, not a single situation in your life will ever happen 100% the way you want it. Yes? Only 2 people in the family. Is it happening the way you want it? Oh, not at all. Not your husband, not your wife, not your parents, not your children. Nobody happens 100% the way you want them. Does anybody happen? Not even your dog. These days they do their own thing. Nobody happens 100% the way you want them. That's all right. But at least this one person must happen 100% the way you want him, isn't it? If this one doesn't happen the way you want him, this is a lost case. That one doesn't happen your way, that one doesn't happen your way, that one doesn't happen your way. That's not the problem. This one is not happening your way, this is the problem, isn't it? Tell me, if you could determine the nature of your experience, if you could touch the source of creation within you, when I say source of creation, what did you have for lunch, son? Huh? For lunch, what did you have? Roti. Roti. See, roti. Flat thing, no good for anything. You eat this, over the afternoon, this roti becomes a human being. Yes or no? Has it become or no? How did you gather these kgs? Just the food that you've eaten, isn't it? You give it a banana, over the afternoon, banana becomes a human being. If I sit here, take a banana in my hand and make it into a human being, who do you think I am? Creator himself, isn't it? Every one of you are doing this or no? You are making it into a human being. When I say a human being, the most sophisticated piece of creation that we know right now, yes? You're making a banana into a human being. Is this a small phenomena? Is this something to be ignored? If you find access to this, if you find access to that which is capable of making a banana into a human being, if you find access to that dimension of intelligence and competence within you, if you just touch it once, you live your life magically. If this one was happening 100% the way you want him, would you keep him blissful or miserable every moment of your life? I want to hear this. Glad for your choice. So if you're going through stress, tension, unhappiness, misery, fear, nonsense, obviously your body, your mind, both are not taking instructions from you. Yes? If your mind was taking instructions from you, would you create misery? No. On a certain day, a lady went to sleep. In her sleep, she had a dream. In her dream, she saw a hunk of a man standing there, staring at her. And he started coming closer, 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 closer. So close she could even feel his breath. She trembled, not in fear. And then she asked, "What will you do to me?" The man said, Well, lady, it's your dream.